Today, I'm going to teach you about something I wish I knew way sooner inside of Palworld: schematics. Understanding how schematics work and taking advantage of them can make playing through the game a lot more enjoyable for a multitude of different reasons. Some being that you won't be completely useless in your boss fights, you'll have a much higher power ceiling, and you'll be able to make slow fights drag on a lot less. Without further ado, let's get into it. If you already know how schematics work, feel free to skip to the timestamp on screen. Schematics are really simple. They are upgraded versions of already existing weapons and armor in the game. To be specific, these are the items that have schematics for them. Basically, when you get a schematic, you get a new engram. Except instead of spending technology points, you spend your time finding that chest or boss drop. Schematics have 4 tiers to them. This is the list in ascending order: uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary. As the tier increases, so does the stats of the item, the cost of crafting and repairing the item, and the time it takes to craft the item initially. One more thing to note is that crafting a schematic is going to cost you ancient civilization parts, which usually isn't a requirement for the common item. This can be a bit of an inconvenience, but it's worth it in the end. Just to forewarn you before we get too deep into this, high-level schematics are going to take 1,000 years to craft, and they're going to cost you a kidney. These high-level items also take a ridiculous amount of resources to repair. On the bright side, you won't have to waste your technology points on the vanilla item for something if you get a schematic. For example, if you unlock the legendary pump shotgun schematic, you don't need to go out of your way and spend 4 technology points unlocking the vanilla pump shotgun craft. You can just use the schematic. The tech point thing doesn't sound like a huge deal, but when you're at the end of the game and you have 1,000 things to unlock still and you're out of points, you're gonna appreciate the time save. I probably should mention this just in case. If you have a schematic, all you need to do is keep it in your inventory and go to the crafting bench that it's assigned to. You don't need to do anything fancy, just bring it to the bench and craft. How to get schematics is really simple, but almost impossible to figure out entirely by just playing the base game. I'll split this section up into non-legendary and legendary schematics for simplicity. For uncommon, rare, and epic schematics, simply opening chests around the world can give you what you're looking for. The better the weapon or armor piece the schematic is for, the rarer the drop chance is to get it out of a chest. Farming dungeons is the best way to get schematics that are actually worth your time to craft if you don't want to go for the legendary schematics. Even uncommons are twice as strong as the base item, so any schematic for a useful weapon or armor piece helps. I found that schematics for extremely high level gear such as rocket launchers and pal armor are almost impossible to find in chests. Legendary schematics are the highest tier in Palworld, and the method to get them is completely different from the lower tier schematic drops. For legendary schematics, you must kill the assigned alpha boss many times to get the drop. You may be wondering, what alpha bosses drop the legendary schematic I'm looking for? Which legendary schematics are worth getting as I progress through the game? Well, to start, take a look at which bosses drop which legendary schematics and where they are on the map. Legendary drops are insanely hard to come by. The drop chance isn't 100% known to my knowledge, but it's estimated to be around 2.5 to 3%. While this doesn't seem too bad on the surface, farming legendary and pseudo-legendary pals once per hour 33 times on average is really slow and tedious. To farm legendary schematics most efficiently, you need to catch the pals and butcher them for the double drops. While this seems extensive because of the high cost of legendary and ultra spheres, which is what high level pals demand in order to be efficiently caught, it is absolutely a time saver overall. Alpha pals have a respawn rate of 1 hour, and farming efficiently can yield you far more spheres than it would require you to go catch all the alpha bosses that you're trying to farm. Also, make sure your lift monk catching power isn't terrible before going for high level pals. That's a mistake I see a lot of people making. I know flying around and farming them is boring, but it'll save you hours of time during the stupidly long process of finding all these schematics. So yeah, make sure you're catching and butchering to double your drops. That should help you avoid having to farm the Suzaku boss for 40 hours of playtime for a stupid shotgun. Let's get right into when you should be trying to get these legendary schematics as you go through your playthrough. I personally would rule out farming for any legendary armor schematics before the final PAL armor tier right off the bat. The upgrade is significant, but I find farming for all 3 of the refined metal armor pieces is a huge waste when you could just level up your character in that time to get PAL armor that's similar in strength for a lot less effort. Frostalion, Necromus, and Palladius are pals you'll end up farming a lot just to get the strongest armor. Frostalion is for the PAL metal helmet, Necromus is for the heat resistant PAL armor, and Palladius is for the cold resistant PAL armor. Yet again, even though they can be a pain in the ass to catch, it is still much faster in the long run to catch and butcher these pals as opposed to just murdering them repetitively. One more side note, I'd kill Necromus at night while Palladius is asleep. It makes taking these 2 out much easier. For weapons, I think it's a little different because there's basically one relevant weapon for each stage of the game. Farming Bushi once you're around level 18 for the crossbow schematic is a great way to get your playthrough off the ground, but should not be something you wait up on. Never halt your progression to wait for a schematic. Even if you get extremely unlucky, just skipping to the next tier of item, in this case the musket or the handgun, is a fine alternative for a while. I definitely recommend farming Bushi and Beacon in the early game to see which one you can get a drop from first. These are just the two best ranged weapons in the early game, and having at least one of them is absolutely worth it. The handgun can have the downside of being very tiring to farm ammo for, which is why I use Sybilex in a farm to sell high quality cloth, and also sold all my high level pals throughout my playthrough that I wasn't really using. The traders that buy pals from you usually give a lot more gold for high level pals. They don't really care about the passive traits nearly as much, or even what type of pal it is. Killing the black marketer is also a fantastic way to get this gold, but he's a bit tougher for early game players. Usually I would just tell you to sell nails, but that just got nerfed in the most recent update, so you're gonna have to do something else now. Another late game strategy besides killing the black marketer could also be to sell legendary spheres, but at this point in the game, you're not gonna really be selling legendary spheres for handgun ammo. You might do it for assault rifle or shotgun ammo though. Once you hit level 40 or so, it's time to start pulling out the big guns. I'd start with farming Suzaku. The legendary pump shotgun that pal drops can easily get you through the rest of all the fights in the game. I'm sure you've seen me farming the end game with it in this video. The best weapon in the game, however, is without a doubt the legendary assault rifle from Blazima. The ammo is easy to get using the same method I mentioned for the handgun, and this weapon has far more consistent damage output, especially from range, than the pump shotgun does. It also has a significantly faster reload speed, which can't hurt. Jetragon also might be something you want to farm to get the legendary rocket launcher, but I hate farming for the rockets, so it's really just up to you. The rocket launcher, of course, is really strong, but generally speaking, it's probably going to do less damage than the assault rifle unless you literally never miss. I also find myself getting crits with assault rifles a lot more because there's just more bullets to get crits with. The only three arguments I could really see for the rocket launcher being good is for if the pal is sleeping and you need to do the first double damage hit with it, if you need to deal knockback damage, or if you just want to look like an absolute badass. Now that you know how to farm for schematics and which ones I recommend, I decided to use a normal and legendary shotgun in two separate fights against some of the game's bosses to showcase how significant the upgrade is from a common to a legendary weapon. I used the pump shotgun for this example, but all schematics have a similarly large impact on their respective weapons' power. To the montage! The difference in these clips is literally absurd. In the Grimsbolt fight, both pumps did a really good job of destroying the boss, but it is clear how much better the legendary weapon is compared to the basic one. The 33% increase in mag size was also a huge help in getting DPS out fast. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. Schematics also increase the mag size of your weapons. Another thing to note is, even though I mentioned repairs and crafting being more expensive for the higher tier gear, the lower tiered items definitely break a lot faster. They also go through bullets a lot faster. The thing is, if your weapon's weaker, you need to spend more ammo to match what a stronger weapon would be doing. And that ends up adding up a lot at the end of the day. I actually used so many extra pellets in the second fight that I had to switch to the legendary at the end to finish the fight, or else I would have ran out of ammo and had to wait for a pal to finish off the boss. The stats and the eye test confirm what I've been saying throughout the video. The higher tier schematics are miles better than the basic weapons and armor. Also, even if it takes you a while you're farming one of the bosses, you get a lot of XP, so it's a win-win. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you found it useful, I'd really appreciate it if you could consider subscribing and liking the video. If you have any tutorial requests, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to help out in any way I can. This has been Jace, and I hope to see you again in the next video.